Practice quiz number 2. And it looks like we got, at least I got this far. So I'll just explain for people who, for whatever reason, didn't get as far as I got. It could be that your Chromebooks were open. Eli, close your Chromebook. So if your Chromebook's open, I'm not surprised that you don't know where to put the lines. The reason you have to ask me is because your Chromebook's always open and you're focusing on that rather. There's no way your Chromebook helps you focus on this.
Yeah, I play poker and it helps you focus.
Right, playing poker helps me focus.
It does actually.
Nonsense. Okay, so recap on all these places. The first thing you do, or the first thing I do, is I do this pressure belt right at the equator. The pressure belts are 10 degrees wide from 10 north to 10 south, and that's low pressure. It's low pressure because it's hot air. And is hot air heavy or light? Light. And the weight of air is what causes pressure, so this is low pressure. It's also low pressure because it's rising air, and rising air doesn't squish you. Sinking air squishes you. Here's where the air sinks. So the air rises at 0 degrees, it sinks at 25 degrees, so you make the high pressure between 20 and 30. And then the air that sinks at 25 degrees, some of it goes north like this, like these winds. Some of it goes south like this. And the stuff that goes north rises again at 60 degrees. So we're looking at this from a map view, but remember the side view of this would look like this. If this is the Earth, the air rises at the equator, splits apart in the top of the atmosphere, sinks at 25 degrees, splits, rises at 60 degrees, and then does all, so you've got these circulating patterns around the Earth. This is what it looks like from a top view, though. Right here, that sinking air is this high pressure. Right here, this rising air is that low pressure. So once you get the pressure belts, one centered at 0, one centered at 25, one centered at 60, all of them 10 degrees wide, then you can draw the winds. And you just need to know which way they go. They go from high pressure to low. And second, which way they curve. They curve clockwise in the north. So, Prince, be quiet. This is the equator. Everything this way, this is the northern hemisphere. Everything this way is the southern hemisphere. So these winds, they all go clockwise. So the ones right here go like that. And the ones right here go like that. They go kind of sideways. The Coriolis effect makes them turn, and it turns them really sharply. And then this wind down here goes from high pressure to low, but it goes counterclockwise because we're in the southern hemisphere. And so that's the winds. And you know what? At this point, I could actually do some of these questions. This is the way it'll work on the quiz. If you have, Prince, be quiet. If you have some answer choices like A, B, D, I, O, R, and U, one thing that's kind of useful is I'm going to circle those letters. There's A, B, D, I, O, R, and U, just so I can find them easily. And then the first question is, which of those is in a high pressure belt? So what is it? A, B, D, I, O, R, or U? Which one? High. So we've got the answer to this. And then low pressure belt would be which letter? What? Is it B, D, I, O, R, or U? Which one's in the low pressure belt? R, right there. This is the low pressure belt between 5 degrees and 5 degrees right there. So that one's R. And then we can do this one. Now, it says, where does the wind blow toward the northwest? If that's kind of tricky for you, I would go down to the compass rose and draw a little arrow to the northwest. So what way would a northwest, like if I want to draw an arrow from right here pointing to the northwest, where does it need to go? Does it go down and to the right? Does it go down and to the left? Does it go up and to the left or up and to the right? Which way is toward the northwest? So here's west, and here's north, and northwest means right in between there. So it's not going to go straight up, it's not going to go straight over, it's going to go like this. So there's an arrow to the northwest. So we just need to find a place where the wind is blowing in that direction. Do you see, if you look at these winds, these winds, these winds, which set of winds is going this way? The bottom one right here. So of those letters, which one has a wind blowing to the northwest? It's this letter U down here. Because these, if I asked you which way are these winds blowing, what way are they blowing? Are they going east or west? They're going west. Are they going north or south? So they're going southwest. How about these winds right here? Which way are they blowing? Northeast. They're going to the north. They're going to the east. So they're really tilted toward the northeast. All right. Then the currents. I didn't explain about the currents, so I don't want to do those yet. But here's how you do the currents. You just look at the way the wind blows. Here, the wind is blowing to the left, so the currents go to the left. Here, the wind is blowing to the left, so the currents go to the left. Here, the wind is blowing to the right, so the currents go to the right. That's the easy part. It's between these two places, right in here, that's kind of tricky. You can do it two ways. You can do the split method. You can say, this current's going to hit this side, and it's going to split. Some is going to go that way, and some is going to go around here. You can say this current's going to hit the side of the continent, it's going to split, some will go like that, and some will go like that. That's one way to do it. The other way is, what word am I going to use? Begins with a G, it doesn't sound like a G. It's a thing that rotates. Gyre. So in the ocean, there are these circulating things called gyres. They're in the horse latitudes. So wherever you have horse latitudes, there's no wind, but the ocean's going to swirl here. And if you can figure out how it swirls, then you can figure out what's happening with the currents here and here. So the wind makes the current go this way at the top and this way at the bottom. So this gyre is going to swirl like this. You could just take your finger and you could go like that and say, am I going with the winds? And then you could try it the other way. Am I going with the winds? No. So it's got to go like this. So what this means is this water is going to go up the coast, up north. And over here, it's going to go like this. This water is going to go south. So once you have that, then you can do the colors. All you have to do is keep an eye on this area. All the water that's coming from this area is warm. So this water is warm, this water is warm because it comes from a place close to the equator, between 20 degrees north and the equator, and 20 degrees south and the equator. That's all warm. So this is warm. It's going to go all the way across and be warm. This water is also warm because it's coming from here. This water, at G and at L, neither one is farther north or south, but the water at G comes from up here. So this is the cold place. Everything beyond the horse latitudes is cold. Everything between the horse latitudes is warm. So this water is cold, this water is warm. And now I can answer my questions. At which two yeah, what's going on there? I think it should say at which letter. So there aren't two. At which letter is there a cold current? And here it should say at which letter is there a cold current? So if you have to choose between A is up at the top. Which one of those is a cold current, A or U? No, U is right in the middle of all this hot stuff. So it's A. And then we have G and we've got L. Which one of those is a cold current, G or L? G. And I've already told you this little shortcut, but generally, which side of every continent is warmer water? Generally. The east side. East coast has warmer water usually than the west coast. That's true for North America and most other continents. It's not really true right here, but I didn't ask you about that. All right, now we need to do so there's this sheet which you can use for practice, but you can't use on the quiz. Did the pressure belts, I did the winds, I did the ocean currents. Now I need to do the major deserts and the rainforests. So it says here low pressure equals rainforest. High pressure equals desert. So if you wanted, you could just make all this land dry, and you could make all this land wet, and you'd be okay. You'd do fine on the quiz. I'm going to make it more like it really should be. One side here should be less dry. Which side? The west coast or the east? This should be less dry. This should be drier. This should be a little bit more humid. What makes it more humid over here? The warm water. So I'm going to make my desert a little bit bigger over here and a little bit smaller on the right, not actually touching the coastline. So that's all. This is all major desert because it's high pressure. But the desert's smaller here because of the warm water. And then all this is rainforest, which I'm going to make big on this side and maybe big over here, but not so big over there because this is cold water that's nearby. So I'll do it like this. So that's all. That's the major rainforest. That's like the Amazon, and this is like the Sonoran Desert in the northern hemisphere in North America. So now I can answer number 6. Which letters in a major rainforest would it be of all the ones that I've circled here? A, B, D, I, O, R, or U? R. And which one's in a major desert? I. Right there. Okay, now the coastal wet climates, those are the places where the wind comes from the ocean. And some of you are probably getting pretty good at this. How many are there on this continent? How many places, if you go around the coastline, all the way around, how many patches are there where the wind comes from the ocean and hits the land? Is it 2 or is it 3? One of those is correct. 3? Anybody disagree? 2?
5.
Who's certain? What do you think?
I think it's 2.
2? It's 3. So, is this one of them right here? No, because the wind is coming from the land going out to sea. Is this one of them right here? No, why not? No. So there's no wind at all. So you can't have wind from the ocean if there's no wind. Is one of them here? Yeah. So the wind is coming from the ocean hitting the land. So all this right along here is wet. How about right here? Is this one of them? No. Nope. Why not? There's no wind, just rising air. How about here? Yeah, because the wind is coming from the ocean hitting the land. So I'd say kind of around there is good. How about right here? Why? No wind. And here? Yeah, the wind is coming from this way. I mean, maybe. It's kind of iffy. How about here? Nope, definitely not, because the wind is going that way. It's coming from the land to the ocean. How about here? No wind. How about here? Yeah, because the wind comes from the ocean to hit the land. So all the way, I'd say all along here would work. All right, so we've got that. So the question over here, which letter is in a coastal wet climate? And I've got, let's just look at the ones that are. So the ones that are M and C. And that's it. Those are the only letters in there. So which one of these do I choose? C, H, P, T, K, or F? C. Yeah. So C is that one right there. The other ones must be somewhere else. They're not in. They might be wet, but they're not in a coastal wet. Okay. The rain shadow effect. Oh yeah, yeah. So I don't know. This was kind of crazy here. So it said letters, and I think originally there were 2, and I just changed this, and I forgot to do a good job on it. Sorry. So which letter is in a wet climate caused by the rain shadow effect? So if you remember what the rain shadow effect is, how many places are there on this map that are going to be wet because of the rain shadow effect? There are 4 rain shadow effect places, but only 2 of them are wet. 2 are dry and 2 are wet. So the rain shadow, we just did coastal wet, by the way. I skipped over it. But the rain shadow is like this. The windward side is wet. The leeward side is dry. So where air goes up the mountain, where it hits the mountain, it's wet. And on top it's wet, but then back behind it's dry. So I'm going to move along the mountain range. Tell me when I get to a rain shadow effect. Okay, you missed them all. So you need 2 things for a rain shadow effect. What's one? No. Don't need a current. You need wind. What's another one? Need mountains. So you kind of need 3. You need a wind that goes, you need a wind, you need mountains, and you need the wind going across the mountains. So we don't have that here because there's no wind. We don't have that here because there's no mountains. But here we have wind and mountains. So they're going across from right to left, from east to west. Which side of the mountains is wet? Here. Which side of the mountains does the air rise on? Does it rise at N or does it rise at O? It rises at N, so it's wet at N. So this is wet. The mountains themselves are pretty wet. And the wetness is probably a little bit bigger over by the rainforest. And then on the back side, over here, this is the dry side, and the dry part gets bigger by the desert. So there's the rain shadow effect. So N is wet, O is dry because of the rain shadow effect. Is there a rain shadow effect here at J and I? Should we make a wet side and a dry side? What's missing of the 2 things, mountains and wind? Which one do we not have here? We don't have any wind. How about here? Will there be rain shadow? Yeah. Which one's wet? E or D? D, because the air rises on that side. So this side is wet. The mountains are wet. And back behind the mountains, over here where E is, this is the dry part. And one of these questions I'm going to get rid of because we haven't done humid climates, but we can talk about it. So which wet letters in a wet climate caused by the rain shadow effect? The choices are D, I, O, and R. There's D, I, O, and R. Wet climate because of the rain shadow effect. Which one? D. This one right here. O, R is wet, but that's not the rain shadow. That's just low pressure. Which letter's in a dry climate caused by the rain shadow effect? O, right there. And this other thing, the humid business, I think I was telling you that we're not doing it this year, so you can cross out that one. But all these areas over here that are next to this warm water, if they're not something else, they'd be kind of humid. This is like the east coast of the United States. It's humid all along the east coast. If you live in Virginia or Maryland or New Jersey or Vermont or whatever, we're all kind of humid. If you go out west, on the west side of the United States, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, the Dakotas, Montana, they're all kind of dry, so they're less humid. So the answer to this one would have been F. But we're not doing that one. Number 12, at which letter does the ocean current flow most directly toward the North Pole? And the choices are L, A, G, and U. So which one of those? This, which one's going toward the North Pole? Where's the ocean current going toward the North? L, right there, going north. This is going east, this is going south, and this is going west. So the answer is L. And I just answered number 13. Where does it go toward the east? It'll be right here. Hooray.